Malcolm, it's the Malcolm McDonald derby today. Newcastle versus Fulham. We'll come to that in a moment, but we're through to the semi-finals of the League Cup. First time since you got us there in '76 with your team. What does that mean to you as an ex-player?
It's about time Newcastle got to the semi-finals of the League Cup, and I hope that they get through to the final and even win it, because good heavens, it was all those years back when I was actually playing in the 70s. That was the last time that Newcastle United got into the semi-final of the League Cup. It's the only time that we've done it. So since back then in '76. It has been absolutely atrocious. And I think that managers, instead of getting out the best side possible, which is what Eddie Howe did against Leicester, and it needed to be the best side that we could put out to ensure that we got into the semi-final. But of course you look at the changes that were made the previous Saturday against Sheffield Wednesday, and what a disaster that was. And I'm, if you're going to enter a competition, enter it to win it, for heaven's sake, not to give kids a run out. You can do that in other ways. So, yeah, I'm delighted that we're in the semi, and really I think the draw's been exceedingly favourable, and that Newcastle got Southampton over 2 legs.
No easy games.
Well, there are no easy games. No, that's very true. But I think you'd rather play Southampton than Man City. That's for sure. But well done to them for getting that result, and they got another one yesterday at Everton, and so maybe their season is turning round for them. Just coming on to today. You mentioned that it's 2 of my old clubs. I am in this incredible situation at the moment. I played for 4 clubs, and 3 of them are in the top 6 of the Premiership. Arsenal, Newcastle in 4th now, with Man United winning yesterday, and Fulham, of course, in 6th place. Well done them. It's quite incredible. What they've been achieving, and it's going to be a cracker today.
Dan Burn got his first goal for the club, and I think all of us were just as emotional as he was, running away from the Gallagher end with a smile as big as the Tyne, as wide as the Tyne. But you've played for Newcastle. How important is it to have local players playing in that squad? And what kind of influence do they have in the dressing room?
Yes, if they can vocalise their thoughts, then yes, then it's great to have them. And there was a great one when I was playing, which was Frank Clark. He was a local lad, but spoke very intelligently indeed, and has had a lifetime career in football at various clubs, and he was a really good friend as well. And yes, it is important, I think, that it sort of, they act almost as a bridge between the sort of local supporters and all the other players, because the team that I played in, it was a lot of foreigners, Irish, Scots, and they were the foreigners of those days. These days they come from literally all over the world to play, and so it's very, very difficult now, because when you think that back then we could all have a conversation. It might have been a number of different dialects, but nevertheless we could have a full conversation. But that doesn't happen in a lot of dressing rooms these days. And you've got as many as interpreters as you have players in the dressing room, and so it can be quite difficult, I think, these days for managers to fully get their ideas across, and the vast majority of them are foreign as well. So just which language is it that they're actually speaking in the dressing room? You can almost feel a foreigner these days if you're English.
638 minutes without a goal for Nick Pope and his defence. I mean, that back four is got to be up there with probably one of the best we've seen, as Newcastle United fans in recent times, certainly. But maybe, looking back over the club's history, it's got to be one which is certainly giving others a run for their money.
Well, it certainly is, and I think that none of us are fully used to Newcastle having a brilliant defence at work. That we've relied more at the other end of the field to get results. So this really is a game changer for all of us, I think, and it is quite remarkable the figures that are actually being put down. And as you say, Nick Pope. He really is breaking all records for a Newcastle goalkeeper, and hopefully it keeps it going. And if you look at today's game, the thing that stands out to me is that Newcastle and Fulham, they've scored a very similar total so far this season. So the two forward lines are sort of fairly equal. But then you look at the back four, Newcastle have conceded only a third of what Fulham have conceded. So just in that simple fact, that's the major difference between the two sides, that Fulham are going to find it mightily difficult to score a goal this afternoon. Whereas Newcastle, it should be that we don't find it anywhere as difficult as Fulham will find it.
Mitrovic, obviously suspension's up. He'll be back today. One would imagine he'll start. He's coming back to his former club. He hasn't scored, I don't want to put a jinx on it, of course, in the 4 games that he's played against Newcastle. But why do you think Mitrovic didn't succeed at Newcastle? Was it because of the manager at the time, Rafa Benitez, didn't fancy him? Was it because he was young and still trying to learn the English game? Why wasn't Mitro a success up here?
Very simple. The reason why Mitrovic was not a success here was that he wanted to play to the crowd. And that is not the attitude that you should take when you're playing at this kind of level. When you're playing at Premiership level, certainly. In fact, it doesn't work at any level. That you have to get out and do the very best that you can on the field of football, in the team that you have playing with you. And he wanted to do something quite different. While the game was going on, he was sort of gesticulating to the crowd and what have you. And that isn't a professional way to go about things. The best thing that a centre forward can do for all the supporters is stick the ball in the net. And that was the one thing that he actually forgot when he was here at Newcastle. Fulham have changed him around, I have to say, but nevertheless, I still have this major question mark about him, and I couldn't see him ever succeeding at Newcastle. So maybe the move was the best thing for him, and he has seemed to turn it around somewhat against, rather for Fulham. But good luck with the back four that he's playing against today.
No movement in the transfer window again over the last week. Eddie Howe again on Friday, just insisting that Newcastle United are monitoring the market, and if somebody becomes available at the right price and with the right kind of character to come into that dressing room, then they will act accordingly. Is it a concern for you, because we're in the semi-finals of the Cup? We've got 2 big games coming up at the end of the month against Southampton away and then at home, and today it's a huge game. Newcastle win today, they go into 3rd place again, and the battle of Newcastle United and Manchester United, which was so in the 90s, is now back on the table. What's your view? Should we strengthen now, or is Eddie Howe and the people behind the scenes playing this in the right way? Only bring in a player at the right place and of the right character.
Yeah, what you just said, I think holds very, very true. I'm not so sure that Newcastle have got the ability to spend a huge sum of money. I think that they are restricted by the football authorities, and the financial fair play situation.
Why on Chelsea?
Because Chelsea are valued totally different, and it's all on value, and of course, one of the things that Mike Ashley did was run the value right down, and so he's left the club in a situation where it hasn't got a freedom to spend in the transfer market, and so I would think it's very frustrating for the current board, the owners, and of course more so for Eddie Howe, I would imagine, because Newcastle have got the financial ability to go and take on anybody in financial terms, but it's the rules that are stopping us, and so what it needs is that Newcastle, that they can build the value and do it pretty quickly.
Last couple of points. ESM, we've spoken about him many times in the Dog and Parrot pre-match, post-match. I've got to be honest, my gut instinct is that player is going to be either out the door, possibly this window, or in the summer. I don't think Eddie Howe trusts him. I don't think he wants to play him. And I've got to be honest, on Tuesday night against Leicester, he came out at half-time by himself and started running up and down the touchline. Wasn't even involved with the players. Something's happened there. Fair play to the club, they haven't let the cat out of the bag, but there's something not right there. Would you take ASM going out in this transfer window as long as they replaced him?
If he were to go, I don't think anybody would really miss him, because he is not doing what's required, and persists in being more of a circus act than a performing footballer. And it's a shame, because he has got loads and loads and loads of talent, but how frustrating is it when you think that he's out on the field, he can have the ball far more than any other player and actually achieve nothing in the time that he's in possession of it. He doesn't get crosses in, he doesn't make goals, he doesn't score goals, or scores them very, very rarely. And so he's got the vast amount of possession in comparison to any other player on the pitch, and actually doesn't do anything with it. Oh, and I could finish up banging my head against a brick wall over the fella, because he's got all the talent in the world, but isn't using it. When you go out on a football field for your football club, you've got to go out there and hurt the opposition. So Maximin doesn't hurt them. He really doesn't hurt them. I've over the past few months, I've been watching some Maximin, and it's almost a relief that for the opposition that he has the ball, because. And I saw Norwich do it, I've seen Brighton do it. They just put two players in front of St Maximin, and they can move him about as they wish. And he doesn't go and hurt the opposition. He doesn't get beyond those two players and look to cause damage inside the penalty area. And if he's not prepared to do that, then what is his worth? And honestly, if he left, I don't think anybody would miss him, and he'd soon be forgotten.
Okay, coming to today's game, obviously we're not going to touch on anything legal with regards to Joe Linton. I personally think he will play. I think Eddie Howe will name an unchanged team from Tuesday night, because listening to Eddie Howe's press conference on Friday, he said, I will make the final decision. I pick the team, and I have to pick the best team for this football club. Well, I'm afraid the best team for this football club includes Joe Linton at this moment in time. So, your thoughts just on the team selection. Do you think I'm right? And give us your views on how the game will go and your prediction.
Well, if he does pick Joe Linton, I think in the situation that there's a huge pressure on Joe Linton to really go out and prove himself. And so he could go out and have a sensational match, just to, look, I'm really sorry for what's happened, but it's not going to make a difference to me on the field. And that's the attitude for him to take. And I think Eddie Howe is brave enough as a manager to know that he can get the best out of the player by giving him the challenge.
We don't know what's happened.
Yeah.
We know that he's been arrested and charged with drink driving. We don't know what's happened, so we can't talk about it.
Yeah. It's all sub judice at the moment. So certain things have come out in the public, but we'll find out more a bit later in the month.
What do you reckon today?
So today, I really do think that the Newcastle defence are going to make it very, very difficult for Fulham, and that we will finish with a clean sheet today, and it's a question of Newcastle scoring, albeit I think that they might not find it that easy. Things have sort of, Newcastle seem to be a bit slow in getting themselves going just at the moment, but I think that they will score, and I will take Newcastle to beat Fulham 1-0.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, well, I'm going 2-1, so we will find out who was right when you're back here at about 4:45. But put your hands together for the living legend, Supermac, Malcolm MacDonald.